If you have been told during this journey of manifesting either a specific person um, or manifesting a new love, marriage, and you have been told by a coach that you have to go back and do the inner work and recreate your childhood or find out what's been getting in the way, I want to tell you here that that is not true. Let me explain why. Hi there, I'm Adila, your 10-figure manifesting expert, here to help you create your ideal lifestyle. Welcome to This Is Your Story. I want to preface this by saying that I love all coaches. I think that it is great to take the experience of wanting to, better the world, the community, especially on a large scale, to help people and to help them create the life that they desire. And we are all one. We are all one consciousness. I have to always remind myself of that because, if I go and put someone else down, I'm only putting myself down. We are all one consciousness. But I have to address this because it keeps coming up. It came up for myself during my process of learning, and it keeps coming up with my clients. So I wanted to take the time and, kind of hash this out. There's this theory that when you are creating a new desire and you're having a reaction to it, that it's attributed to something that was in your childhood, and it's been recommended that you go back into the past and revisit that and kind of clean up what happened in the past and to help you manifest the desire that you're creating. And there's this idea around that it's based on some kind of childhood trauma, and going back and finding out the root cause will help you manifest easier. So that is a therapeutic practice, a practice in the field of psychology. And I've practiced being a therapist for years and years and years. And when I came across the law of assumption, it makes everything a million times easier. So, practicing conscious manifesting is not the same as therapy. They're two totally different things. And I get why people recommend that because, a lot of people can present as anxious or fearful of what they're desiring, or they can, they'll say they are putting undue resistance between themselves and the desire. However, manifestation, law of assumption is not therapy. And I also want to put this disclaimer out that I'm not practicing therapy when I'm here. I am presenting as a coach. So I am wearing the hat of a coach. I am not practicing as a therapist, and I would not recommend that on this channel. If we were working one on one in a therapeutic session, that's a whole nother entity. It's a whole different it's just a whole different container. And in the practice of therapy, there is a lot of focus on, what's currently the presenting problem, like what's bothering you in the moment, and what's getting in the way of what you desire. And that process does engage a lot in going back to see where that problem started. But that is not how we teach the law of assumption. There are a couple of things I want you to think about with this. If you came to me and said, I want to manifest marriage right now, I want to get married this year, I am single right now, I don't like it, I really want to have a life partner, or I've been single for a while, or I've never had a partner, like whatever your situation is, if you came to me and said, this is the situation and this is what I want, there is no way that I would really refer you to therapy. That's not a coaching practice. And there's there's really only one way that you're manifesting your ideal lifestyle. In the law of assumption, you are assuming that you are the person who has it now. And you keep assuming and assuming and assuming that every single day until it shows proof of that. Nowhere does it say to go back into the past and recreate what happened to you to manifest what you desire to happen now or in the future. You don't hear Neville Goddard saying, you need to go back to your childhood. I feel like that's just someone's creation, possibly from a therapeutic background, because, having that therapeutic skill or skill set, you can teach people how to relax and how to enjoy this process. And I agree with that. However, um there's no no practice that includes going to the past. And imagine if you said that you wanted to manifest marriage this year. Imagine me saying, okay, well, go to therapy first. And imagine just that process alone. If I said go to therapy first, figure out what happened in the past and why you're not married now. You go to therapy. First, you have to find a therapist. Secondly, you have to like the therapist, because you have to, it's just like finding a coach. You have to find someone who you feel comfortable with, relatable with, who you'll open up to. Then you have to feel comfortable enough to start delving into what is getting in the way. Your childhood. What is your history like with your parents? Are your parents even around? Were they supportive? That takes time. Think about the time that would take. And imagine you come to me and you're like, I want this year. How long will that take for you to go through that process? They just don't go together. I know this is an unpopular opinion, because there's just this wave of people pushing that information out there. But to me, it doesn't really make sense, and I feel like I have to say something about it. It doesn't make sense. If you are able to imagine yourself into a reality that you have like this blissful, abundant, amazing relationship, it doesn't make sense for you to have to go to therapy first in order for that to happen. All you're doing with the law of assumption is you are switching your state of consciousness. You are going from I am this person. You're going from I don't have this to I am this person now. You're going from lacking this idea of being in this relationship to I have this relationship now. You're repeatedly telling yourself that I'm in this relationship now. I have this relationship now. I can feel this relationship now. This is my relationship. And if people can manifest these relationships, including marriage, in like a 30-day period, then what does that have to do with therapy? Somebody could also say, well, Adila, I get what you're saying, but what about in order to maintain the relationship, right? So you manifest this person, you have a great relationship happening, but you're full of anxiety, you're full of fear, you're full of like, what's going to happen next and how do I keep this? Those ideas and fears and worries are resolved with going out into the future or revising the past. That's the only thing I would recommend for going to the past, is revising the event that you feel like is triggering the present. That's all. And all that means is you're saying it didn't happen that way that I'm imagining it now. This is how it actually happened. So you plug in your preferred outcome from the past, and it eliminates all of that anxiety that you're currently feeling in the present. I definitely take some time to review Neville's revision method. I talk about it on some videos here, but I experienced a very traumatic past as a childhood, young adulthood, but I revised it all. And I revised it by sticking to the story of I grew up in a loving family. I've always had the best relationships. So the anxiety and worry and fear that I was feeling when I was desiring a new relationship, it just simmered. It went away because I used revision. And it's simple. It's just saying, I have always been this person who has had this. So if I'm operating from the consciousness of a person who has had committed, loving, adoring relationships, that's what I'm going to feel in the present. I'm going to have that vantage point when selecting my new person. So let's say you manifest this person and you're worried about sustaining the relationship. All you have to do is you can speak about how calm you are, how balanced you are, how relaxed you are, how you feel like your complete self in this relationship. You have no fears. You can create a mantra about that. Also, you can go out into the future. I like to create stories as if they've already happened because in my practice and learning from Neville's way of teaching the law of assumption, when you take a current event and put it in the past, it just it kind of supercharges that manifestation. But if I was in the new relationship or even manifesting a relationship, you can say, it's now been 5 years since I've been in the relationship, 10 years since I've been in this relationship. It's now our 20-year anniversary. This is how amazing our relationship is. We still feel so loved. We still feel so connected. We're doing X, Y, and Z. Like you can talk about traveling, you can talk about like all of these things that you wish to be doing with your partner and creating longevity at the same time, you can create that now. I mean, do you want to be married for 50 years? Talk about your 50th wedding anniversary and talk about, imagine who showed up and, where it was. Is it at your home? Did you guys do a destination celebration? Like you can imagine all of those things, but that implies that you have been married for 50 years. You don't have to get back with your person or manifest a new person and worry so much about their absence or, if you have like um abandonment issues or things like that. You don't have to worry that they'll leave you because you're going to create that now. But it doesn't involve therapy. That's all I mean. It doesn't involve, this therapeutic experience and this therapeutic practice. Like, for instance, this is directly from Neville's book, and he gives you like tons of the same way to manifest. It's the same process in every aspect. But take the idea that you want to embody and assume that you are already it. Lose yourself in feeling this assumption is solidly real. As you give it the sense of reality, you have given it the blessing which belongs to the objective world, and you do not have to aid in its birth any more than you have to aid in the birth of a child or a seed you plant in the ground. So take the idea you want to embody and assume you are already it. You want to embody the idea of being married now. Assume you are married now. How do you do that? You can imagine your wedding ring on your finger. You can imagine coming home to your partner. You can imagine your partner coming home to you. You can imagine the type of things that you guys like to do together. You can imagine waking up with your partner. You can imagine going to bed with your partner. You can imagine having movie nights and, different outings that are specifically what you guys like, taking walks in the park, taking hikes, going out of town. Like there's so many ways to imagine being married. Lose yourself in feeling this assumption is solidly real. This is where he's talking about feeling the tones of reality, right? You engage your senses. Can you hear them talking to you? Can you feel them touching you? Can you feel them holding you? Can you feel them kiss you? Can you um, imagine how relieved you would feel with just having that love of your life showing up for you and being there for you or having someone to talk to? As you give it this sense of reality, you have given it the blessing which belongs to the objective world. You do not have to aid in its birth any more than you have to aid in the birth of a child or a seed you plant in the ground. Let's break that down. The only way that you're aiding in the birth of your manifestation is by continuing to imagine it, continuing to write about it, whatever method that you choose that's more resonant with you. If you like to script about it, if you like to sit and visualize about it, if you like to have people talk to you about it, like that is what you're returning to. Some people get caught up in like how to do this and what do I have to do every day, and you just have to practice that. You have to stay in your imagination as much as you can, and ignore the outside world that doesn't reign true, because once you continue to stay in your imagination with it, your world will respond. You'll start to experience things that show you that you're married now. Even before that person comes, you'll start to you'll start to see other people being married. You'll start to imagine yourself being married easier, like you'll be able to get into that state faster. But you'll also start to like turn on the television and movies will pop up about marriage. People might start getting married around you who are kind of close to you, where he says you do not have to aid in its birth um, more than you have to aid the birth of a child. As a parent and as a person who has been pregnant before, what happens when you conceive a child? You you are pregnant. You know that you are pregnant, and automatically my mind as a parent who is you know impregnated, I automatically shift into motherhood. And let me imagine my first child before I even had children. I automatically shifted into I'm a mother now. And this is how I can aid a healthy birth and delivery of a child. I automatically started to assess, how am I caring for myself that is going to care for my child, that is going to aid in the birth of this child being healthy. So if you look at your desired manifestation in that same way, you know, when I was pregnant, I started eating better, right? I wanted to make sure that I was eating more vegetables, more fruits. I started to imagine like I am feeding my child who is within me now, and would I give her this? It doesn't have to necessarily be that extreme. I mean, if you feel like that's extreme, but you know, I wanted to feed myself what I would be feeding my daughter. So I got rid of like all the extra junk and was just eating more from like farms and things like that. But think of that in this regard. So this is your birthing your manifestation, right? So if you are aiding in your manifestation coming to fruition in this way, you're not talking negatively about your manifestation. You're not denying yourself your manifestation, because if I'm denying myself and talking negatively to myself with the birth of my child, with the birth of your manifestation, um it's kind of like it's cooking, and if you're negatively talking to it, it's having a negative impact. And you want to aid in its birth by speaking kindly to it, saying that it's going to happen for you. If you have a hard time like saying this is here now, because I know that shift from I have it now um can present with like more resistance. You can just talk about how I know this is going to happen. Knowing is the same conviction as it's happening now. Like when you have that knowing that this is going to happen. When I was pregnant, I knew that, in a certain amount of months, I'm going to be a mom. This is not just going to stop abruptly. I knew that I had to prepare for it. The same thing goes for him referencing, planting a seed. Like, let's say you plant a seed in a plant and you water it and it grows. It takes time to, grow roots and all of that stuff, and it gradually grows. But if you're walking past it, we had a plant over like a couple summers ago that my daughter had planted, and she wanted to see the seeds grow. But if you're walking past it saying that's dying, that's not growing, that's you're breathing death into that manifestation of that plant, right? If you're saying like that's not going to happen, I don't really think that this works, this isn't really going to, come to fruition, then you're kind of killing it as you go. So a long time ago, my friend was asking me like how I grew my hair, and I manifested my hair growth because I always used to have like really short hair, so I would grow it in a bob because it felt like it would never grow. But I just came up with like, because she wasn't in a manifestation, so I didn't want to like give her something that really didn't make sense to her. But I said, um I said that I left it alone and spoke kindly to it. So with my hair, I used to do like all kinds of stuff with it, dye it, cut it, put braids in it, but a lot of things that were impacting the strength of my hair. All of that manipulation would make it kind of weak. So I decided to leave it alone and speak kindly to it. But it relates to like so many manifestations. If I say, this is what I want, this is what I'm going to have, and I just kind of put it out there, leave it alone, and speak kindly to it, it will manifest because I'm giving it life in the meantime. I'm saying that this is true for me, and I love that this is true for me. So I know I'm going down down this whole, I don't know. I want to just redirect because I can go off on that for forever, it feels like. But I wanted to just be clear about um the difference between the process of therapy versus conscious manifestation. The practice of coaching someone from a perspective of, you know, um, the law of assumption versus a therapeutic standpoint. And, what hat you're wearing. And we are taught as therapists, the field of therapy is very, it's very strict because there's a lot of harm that you can do to your client if they are not involved in this like therapeutic container. So um another thing that comes up for me is like, when someone is wearing like a therapeutic hat but they're not trained as a therapist, it's it can be harmful. And that's why we're taught all of these practices. You have to, study and practice and pass all these tests, and they're not easy. So I just want to say that it's very important to go back to the basics. When you feel like, um, I don't know, you're having emotional responses, and I mean, you may seek therapy. I'm not recommending, and I'm not saying like don't, go to therapy. I'm not. That's not what this video is about. It's a video more so about how the two are not related. This is not a practice of therapy that has its own place in this world, and it's not with the law of assumption. Law of assumption, you are shifting in consciousness. So in one consciousness, you did have all of these experiences. In another conscious state of consciousness, you did not. And we are shifting to the experience of you not having that happen to you in the past by revising, by claiming that you are this person now. So it's a totally different practice, totally different process. And it shouldn't feel hard. Manifesting should feel fun. It should feel easy because it's very simple. And if you are diligent and disciplined in your practice, your states will shift quicker and your manifestation results will happen faster. So remember, if it's feeling hard or if it's feeling um just feeling not fun. If you're in a place where it's like, this feels frustrating, this feels hard, this is giving me anxiety, start again. You can start over as if you are a new student going through this process. It just so happens that sometimes when we've been manifesting things for a while, we've experienced a lot of success, we'll start focusing or hyper focusing on things that we haven't manifested, and it can create more. They say blocks and resistance, but all you have to do is just start again, because the practice does not change. It's the same as it was before. So you can start. I like to start by like reading a Neville book that I've read before. You get a new perspective, but make it fun, make it easy. It's not hard. If you like content like this, let me know by liking, sharing, and subscribing, and I'll see you next time. Bye for now.